Welcome to Book Talk. On today's episode, I'm excited to introduce you to my friend Michelle Greep. And y'all, if you like books set in England, particularly in the 1800s, and she's got a series set during the Charles Dickens time period, and this new series that we're going to talk about is set during more the Victorian / Gilded Age / Edwardian, if you pick what you want to call it, time period. They are all fun and just so well written in research that I am delighted to have her on today to be able to introduce you both to Michelle and to her books. But before we get into that, Michelle, would you like to introduce yourself real quickly?
Absolutely. I am thrilled to be here. Happy to chat with you, Kara, and happy to meet your audience as well. Yeah, I've been writing, gosh, since I first discovered blank wall space and Crayolas, much to my mother's chagrin. And now I have written all my life, still write, but I also am a crazy hippie homesteader living down in Missouri, doing the whole homesteading thing. So that's me in a nutshell. A
I
short.
love it. I love it. The hippity homesteader who writes all these great books set in England. How did you land on England? We got to start there.
I am an Anglophile at heart. I try to skip across the pond every chance I get, and when I my feet hit the ground there, I'm just at home. I don't know why. It's kind of weird. But yeah, England is my jam. So, yeah.
You know, I spent 2.5 weeks there this summer on study abroad, and I have to agree with you. It wasn't my first time there. It won't be my last time there, but there's just something about England that's really fun. Have you been to Bath yet?
Oh yeah, several times.
It was
And
my
one
first time there.
Oh my goodness, you need to go in September when they have the Jane Austen fair and people are roaming the streets in their Regency garb and you feel as if you might pop into Jane at any spare moment. So, yeah,
My
totally.
favorite part was all the bookshops. The
Oh
bookstores
yeah.
were phenomenal in Bath. Oh my gosh. It was
Yes.
so cool. So cool.
Bookstores anywhere in England. Honestly, every time we go to England, we end up buying a whole nother suitcase when we're there because then we fill it with books and haul it home.
Yeah, my husband ended up sending back a box of books. It
You know?
was so much fun because there was one, I think it was Toppings. I think that's what it was called in Bath, that
Oh,
they would ship books back for you. And I was like, yep, we're going to be getting at least a box of books. And we did. It was fun.
okay.
So let's get back to talking about your books.
Okay.
I love this one. And as I'm looking at the cover, it is so much fun of gold and shadows. And you're bringing in Egypt and England and 1888. You've just got all this stuff happening. Where did you get the idea? Because I mean, I look at it and I go, Indiana Jones. But where did you get your idea of Gold and Shadows?
Well, as a writer, we love to procrastinate, do we not?
Oh,
And so
absolutely.
I should have been writing. I was binging on Netflix, as I am wont to do, and was actually doing a double header with Indiana Jones, one of my favorites, perennial favorite, and The Mummy, the one with Brendan Fraser. I forget what
Yeah.
year it is. 1990s, I want to say. Anyways, double header, love them both, and thought, no, that could be fun. Why don't I have an archaeologist? I do an archaeologist story. And why don't I just kind of turn it on its head and have it be a female archaeologist, a spunky one, and stick her in England. And so that's what I did.
Where they love their spunky women.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but 1888, that's like an interesting year to have a woman as an archaeologist
Yeah.
and a British archaeologist. Why 1888?
I wanted her to have trouble, I wanted her to have conflict because at that point in time, good Victorian women were home raising their children and minding their own business, and not running around the halls of Oxford and aspiring to become a renowned Egyptologist, such as my heroine. So I thought, let's just really give her a lot of trouble because hey, that's life.
Well, it is, and it particularly is life for people in our books because we all know you can't have a good book without a lot of conflict. So, when you're writing a book, which comes first for you, the character or the plot?
That's a rough one. I will usually have just an idea for a little bit of a plot, but mostly characters, I would say. I love to go on Pinterest and, find some intriguing images and mash them all together on a board and then kind of come up with a story for it.
All right. So you're one of those who does all the Pinterest boards and stuff.
Yeah.
I love that because I like to create the board, but mine is usually as I'm going and I'm like, oh, yeah, a reader might like to see this, or maybe
Okay.
someday they want to see that. And I turn them into marketing boards later. But
Yeah.
I don't do as much of the, oh, this is for me for inspiration, although sometimes I do. It depends. I'm such a, it depends kind of writer. I don't know
Every
why.
book is different, it just
Yeah.
is. Hmm.
So with this one though, you've got Amy who's at Oxford, very rigid, very old school. She's going into Egyptology and everything goes wrong. So what are you hoping that readers get from this story as they're, diving into the pages and they're exploring the book with her? What's the journey you want them to go on?
Well, kind of the same journey that Amy herself goes on. She does strive to become an Egyptologist. She wants that renown, and that's honestly what she's finding her worth in. So her dad is an Egyptologist as well. He's off, in Egypt. He gets all the renown, she doesn't. And so she finds her worth in striving to become like him, to become an Egyptologist, and ends up finding out, maybe that's not what her true identity is. Maybe that's not what any of our identities is. Maybe we're all okay just as we were created to be. So that's the journey she goes on.
I love that. And so as you were doing this though, I mean, you're talking about all these different settings and location, and Oxford is fabulous. And you've got all these and like imagining you spent lots of time at the Ashmolean
Mhm.
Museum and all their Egypt stuff and such a technical term, stuff. Um, and just going through and all this. But what's some of the research that you did? Because this is historical, it's pretty specific, archaeology, Egyptology. What's some of the research you did that you're like, man, I just can't put this in, but it would be so cool. I'm
Oh,
geeking out on it.
okay. Well, this is kind of an interesting tidbit of the time. And that is, I mean, this period was also known as Egyptomania in England because it was all the rage. And so those more well-to-do, shall we say, were able to afford to buy their own mummy. And so they would have mummy. Oh, that's a tongue twister. Mummy unwrapping parties, dinner parties at their home. So
Oh,
you
that
would,
sounds disgusting.
I know, you would invite a bunch of friends over. You'd lay your little mummy out on the table, open it all up, and then, oh, let's go have dinner. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that was a fun tidbit I did not put into the story.
Like literally.
Literally a mummy. Like, they purchased a mummy from Egypt, had it shipped, opened it up at their house. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, no thanks.
I yeah, my face I think reflects my horror at that idea.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on that one too. I think we'll stick to board games.
Yeah. Law school, not medical school, people. Law school, not medical school.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
just
No,
a
I
little
could
tidbit
I
for
could
you.
go there. And we wonder why the tombs are empty today.
Exactly, exactly. Oh, not to mention all the smuggling that was going on,
Yeah.
which that I did put in my story. So, yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. So your prior series, or one of them, I know you've written a lot of books, but one of your prior series was set on what it was called Blackfriar Lane and Dixonian England. So tell us, what's the difference between Dixonian England and the time period that this book is in? Because some of us just go, it's all 1800s. And you would be going, there's so many different things happening in those different segments of the 1800s. So educate us.
There are. I would say that honestly, more towards the end of the 1800s, there was definitely a bit more freedom for women. So hence my heroine Amy could be at the college that she actually went to college there. Women were allowed to go. Not that they could do much with their degree, but
But they
they
could go.
right, exactly. So back in the Blackfriars series, that's earlier 1800s. No, women were not even allowed to sit in on a class. So Definitely, I would say more freedom for females, a little more breathing space for them towards the end of the 1900 or 1800s.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's good to see, you know?
Yeah. Which is why during in my Black Friar series, I had to have my heroine be quite a scamp who flaunts the law and flaunts, tradition. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to run around London like she did.
Yeah, because she was quite the flagrant
She was.
violator of all the mores of
She was.
society.
She was a sassy little gal. I
Yeah,
love
she
her.
was. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what exactly. That's what made her so fun. And she was just like, I don't care. Well, I mean, she did care, but she'd kind
Did.
of been pushed out onto the fringes. And so she just embraced it and went, okay, we're going to make our own family
Right.
and do all this. And when you say Dixonian, you're meaning Charles Dickens. So like
Yeah.
that more 1840s to 1860s
Yes.
ish
Yeah.
time in England.
Right.
So when people are picking up one of your books, they get a Michelle book, whether regardless of the time period, what should they expect? What's going to be the consistent thread through one of your books?
Okay, great question. Because I do write in a lot of different eras and places, but you can always count on a really good adventurous story because I love an action story that's got plenty packed into it. There's going to be a lot of intrigue going on. There's definitely going to be some romance because, I love me a good romance story. And the one thing that is in every single book I write, that is biblical truth. So, not that I'm going to be beating the reader over the head with Bible verses, but I'm going to weave biblical truth into each and every story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's a great part of your stories. All of those woven together make such a great, compelling stories. But where do you find time to do your writing? I mean, that's not the only thing you're doing. You've got kids, you're homesteading, you're doing all this stuff. Where do you
Correct.
cram writing into your days?
I usually try to do it in the morning, because by night I'm exhausted. So, I'll get up in the morning, I'll go run out to the garden, do a little stuff out there before it gets too hot, and then come in and get my writing done. But I always make sure to plan into my schedule some leeway because, family, things come up, life throws you curveballs, as it does a lot. So I like to build a little buffer in there also so that if I'm not writing in the morning, I don't feel overly guilty.
Yeah. How many words do you write in a day? Do you write by the word? Do you write by the scene? Like,
Yes and yes. I shoot for about 1,500 words a day, which to some people is, oh my goodness, I do 4 or 5,000. And others are like, oh, I can only do 200. Whatever you can do, that's just what I shoot for. But if I'm really under the gun and I need to get a book done, then I will shoot for getting an entire chapter done in a day, which is kind of a grind, but yeah. And I'm one of those writers that like, I like to have it right the first time. So, I have to think about the words I put down because I don't wanna go back and have to do a ton of editing
yeah. And I think that everybody's a little bit different, and it depends on, are you a plotter or a pantser? Or are you somewhere in between?
in between.
Yeah. And I think that's where I fall because I usually have a pretty good idea of where the story's going and how it's starting.
Mhm.
And then, but to plot the whole book anymore, because I used to be forced to do that by a lot of my early publishers. And I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. I know I can,
Right.
but I don't want to because it starts to get to where it's just kind of a grind. So, but I do try and do a lot of that early prep work and then start writing. And then about the halfway point, I'm like, okay, now I need to stop and I need to figure out what's happening next and
Right.
keep going.
Yes.
Um, but those
Yeah.
first three chapters are just agony. I hate the first three chapters. Do you
Yeah,
have a part where you feel like it's agony?
I think more the middle part of the story is agony because I know where I started, I know where I wanna go, but stuff needs to happen. And
Yeah.
what is that stuff? I don't know.
That's where you kill someone.
Yeah, well, I'm good at that. Yeah, if I'm
Yeah,
having
you
a
are.
bad day, I'm definitely killing somebody.
And that, the middle, that just kind of helps things get going again.
There you go.
You just knock somebody off.
Yep. Yes.
All right. So, one more question as we're kind of getting towards the end of this. What's a piece of advice that you would give yourself if you were going to go back and you could go back to Michelle when she was first starting to write and you could be like, "Oh, girlfriend, here's some advice I would give you to calm your heart down.
I would say to myself and to any beginning writer or aspiring author, don't stress so much. It's okay. Just write for the joy of writing. If that story you're writing, you love it and you enjoy the process and it doesn't sell, that's okay. Move on to the next one and just keep at it. Eventually, I mean, that's the whole secret to becoming a successful writer is just to write. So don't stress it, enjoy it, have fun with it, and move on.
That's great advice. And it's so hard to take when it's your first story and you're like, but it's gonna sell and it's gonna be perfect.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna happen.
That's why we have editors.
Uh-huh.
Editors come in and make them perfect. We don't.
Yes.
So when you're writing, do you have a favorite snack that you eat while you're writing? What's your favorite?
Absolutely do. I love homemade mango kombucha, which I make
Ooh,
often. And I love, ooh, this is a toss-up what I want to eat with it. Either plantain chips, so you got the salty and the sweet going on, or
yeah,
a little bowl of cashews with chocolate chips mixed into it. So good.
yeah. Oh, that sounds okay. And mango kombucha. That
Yeah.
sounds really
Yeah.
good.
Oh, it's so good. It's way better than store-bought because store-bought has like that vinegary taste. So homemade, you don't have to brew it as long and it's just better.
You are such a homesteader. I'm like, I need the recipe.
Oh
I
yeah.
totally need the recipe for that.
It's easy. It's so easy. Yeah.
Well, my kids drink it, but they get it from the store. So,
Oh, yeah. Well, if you start making homemade, they're gonna want that because it's way better.
yeah. Okay. You've convinced me. Now you just
Yep.
got to get me the recipe.
Yeah, it's easy. You can do this.
So, last question.
Yeah.
When you're writing, because it's a lot of work, you're getting up, you're writing your 1,500 words a day, you're getting them perfect because you don't want to go back. What brings you joy? What keeps you doing this?
You know, I would say it's the readers because, oh my goodness, when I get a letter from a reader or email, they're mostly emails or message on Facebook, that says something I wrote helped them through a hard time or, put a smile on their face or even better, directed them towards God, that makes it all worthwhile. That's what I'm writing for. I mean, besides the fact that I love it. Um, that's what makes it all worthwhile. So it's readers. So readers, I would encourage you, if you have a favorite author,
Yeah.
just drop them a note because it makes their day and it helps their writing come along. So yeah.
Yeah, it sure does. So, where can readers find out more about you and your books?
You can find me at michellegreep.com. And I do have a newsletter there you can sign up for. I will not spam you because I am horrific at sending out newsletters, but I always do if I have some news to share. So I would say follow me there. But you know what else? I have a wonderful audience on Facebook on my author page. Those people are like, they just love to interact and not just with me, with each other, which is so fun. I love to see that. Also, Instagram and of course, Pinterest if you want to see my boards because I have boards.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
thanks so much for joining me today,
Thank
Michelle. It was so much fun. And for those who are listening or watching, be sure to check out Of Golden Shadows, her next book. Learned all about Egypt and all the fun things about 1888 and women archaeologists. But also, don't hesitate to check out her other series because they're all fabulous. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.